All right, welcome to a special edition of the San Diego Community College Football Report. I'm Ramon Scott. I'm joined by my partner, East County Sports, Dave Dickens. Dave, thanks for getting a couple of great guests to talk about where we stand with the community college football season. We've learned a lot over the last couple of weeks. We've got joining us a couple of old friends, a mentor and a student, if you will, Coach Ed Carberry of the Southwestern Jaguars and Coach Gary Watkins of the Mesa Olympians. Guys, thanks for joining us. Dave, thanks for getting our guests together. We're going to talk about where we stand with the community college athletic calendar. We know we're not going to be playing football until spring, I guess, really. A new twist on spring football in the California community college scene, Dave.
That's right. And you know, 2020 is a change from I would say from the 1st of January up until the present. There's been so many changes, whether it be medically, sports, education-wise. We have really, I think this is the most change that the United States has seen in probably history. Don't quote me on that, but it's pretty darn close, I think, if we went back and looked at everything. But I'm going to start with Ed, just because he was the first coach. I wouldn't say you, coach, in particular, but your administration was to decide it was best for your players to pretty much hang up the season, at least for now. Not permanently, but I think we're looking at February, the last time I checked. But for the meantime, we're not going to be seeing any football. We're not going to be seeing any workouts anytime soon. Go ahead, Coach.
Coach Ed, you hearing him?
Yeah, I got him. I just was wondering if he was asking a question or not. So
well, take us back, Ed, because Southwestern was the first school. Kind of shocked everybody, really. That's before I think all the edicts came down. Southwestern had said we're not going to play in the fall, and that kind of set the dominoes in motion a little bit, huh?
Yeah, it was obviously it was a surprise. I mean, she hadn't. Our doctor, Dr. Murillo, had not met with me or anybody. Not that she would, but we didn't even have any idea from an inkling that they were going to do that. Turns out that she was on top of her game, and it was a difficult decision. Everybody was looking at her like, what's wrong with her and why is she doing this? And but by the time all these folks were sick and dying, she looks like a pretty smart person right now, getting out ahead of it.
Yeah. And just within the last week or two, we kind of got the official word from the CCCAA about the athletic calendar, and all the sports are pretty much going to take place at the same time. I guess it's a February start for sports like football and basketball, and then some of the spring sports will start a couple of months later, I believe in April. Coach Watkins, what was the timetable like there for you guys at Mesa College? We had to, I know everybody, we had plans to, just in case we weren't sure. Tell us what's going on at Mesa.
Yeah, like everybody else, we were waiting to hear they come down from CCAA on the date that they told us, and a week earlier than anticipated. I was on Twitter and I saw it come across their Twitter feed, and I was blown away. Mainly because that's not how I wanted my guys to find out. I wanted to kind of have an opportunity to talk to them and talk them through the decision. I mean, obviously, we kind of had an idea that it was headed that way. If you follow the news and what's going on, we kind of felt that was going to be the decision, but still wanted the opportunity to tell them on the date that we told them that we would tell them, And so immediately our AD, got in motion and started setting up school meetings and spoke with the coaches and gave us the outline for what was going to take place. And obviously the spring, like at Mesa, we have 21 sports teams. And so trying to navigate, field space, gym space, practice times is something that I know that our administration is still working on now. It's going to be a challenge, but like Dave was saying earlier, this year is like unlike any other. And so we're up to making it happen.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the toughest issue. I think at all of the community colleges, and not only the community colleges, but the high schools as well, as pushing football back so far. And I think there's going to be a lot of moving parts, and having to figure out how to get who into the gym at what time, and how to get. People tend to forget about wrestling. I mean, you got wrestling, you got volleyball, you got girls and boys basketball, and men's and women's basketball. I mean, that doesn't affect the football so much, but it's going to push a lot of that stuff back. And then we're going to be right on top of baseball come spring. I mean, that's going to be real close. I think that's going to be the toughest hurdle. Wouldn't you say, Coach? And I'm speaking to Coach Watkins.
Yeah, I mean, for us, I know just within our stadium, you're talking about football, track and field, you're talking about cross country, you're talking about men's and women's soccer. Our upper field is utilized by the throwers from track and field, and the softball field is right adjacent to that. And so there isn't a lot of free space on our campus to technically have more than one practice going at a time. And so there's clearly people who are in the big building up top making a lot more money than I am, whose job is to figure all that out. And I'm sure they will do an amazing job of making sure that all of us are accommodated appropriately.
What kind of schedule are we looking at, Coach Ed? I understand that there's going to be a reduction of games, right? That release from the CCCAA said a 30% reduction. Are we playing 6 or 7 games?
We're going to play 8 games, and I'm sure. I think Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but is there one bowl game afterwards, or is there just state championship game and that's it?
I think whatever happens is going to be regional. So I don't think there's going to be a state championship. I think it's going to be like a southern winner and a northern winner, and that's going to be the end of the story for this year. I'm not sure if is it 7 games in a scrimmage or is it 8 games? I haven't really heard what the final ruling was on that.
I think it's 8 games. My wife just yelled no championships this year. We have the executive council meeting is next Friday at 9:00, and so we'll know more there. So you got to try to get everybody organized and get the games and everything else all set in place. It's going to be really hard. I know one of the things I was surprised, a lot of our fellow head coaches at this big meeting we were all at about 3 weeks ago, and there was a lot of guys just really upset that they couldn't start playing right away. Yeah. Looking at them, and one of our coaches, Junior Menares, is saying, "What are you doing here?" Because basically, they were saying, "We're going to go ahead and practice and play. Here we come in the fall. It can't be done any other time." It's hard. I don't know. I got real sick in March and ended up never got a confirmed case of the virus, but I had all the things that look like you have it. And they told me, well, you're still breathing, so don't worry about coming in. Just go ahead and take care of yourself over there for the next 14 days. And so then we had to go see somebody else, doctor. And they had us go through the COVID test, and so it's it's a legitimate deal. It's not something that you can just go play over here on the side and be okay. Look at the NFL. They're saying they're going to do all this stuff, but push comes to shove, and there's a lot of investment and money in those guys. So. Yeah.
Coaches, has it kind of given a reprieve to the season for the Jags because you guys were set to not play football when it looked like maybe there would be a regular season schedule that would start with school in the fall or whatever? But is the plan right now to play football at Southwestern on this new schedule? Has there been any change to that? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll play football with everybody else. Gary and Mike Jordan, I'm sure, have been out there beating the bushes saying we're not going to play anybody. We're not going to play. I'm sure, Gary, you're right.
I would never do that.
Never. So we were blessed, for everything to go to the spring. He didn't want anybody to get sick and die, but when it all, those kind of things happened, it became proven that you just couldn't predict anything. And so pushing it back to the spring, which I think the first day of actual practice is January 18th. I think we get 3 weeks of practice in some capacity to get everybody ready to go. It's going to be real hard. There's a number of players who won't be with us. Kids that were on our team weren't on our team last year at all and are now with us, but they're qualifiers. Shooting in December, they could be gone and never have played it down at Mesa or Southwestern. So it's going to be, really different for sure.
Now, what kind of a long-term effect? And I'm going to give this to Gary. But what kind of long-term effect do you think this is going to have for the following season? You're going to be so close. I mean, are you going to go back to August? And I mean, if you start in August once again, I mean that's a pretty quick turnaround to get your guys in shape. Or are they going to stay on this this January schedule? Do you know any more information on that, or are we looking that far ahead?
I know I've given it some thought. I'm not really sure if they would consider football moving to the spring permanently, just because traditionally it's played in the fall. And then when you talk about, other areas of the country, playing in the spring is not ideal weather-wise. I mean, if you're a high school out in Ohio, you don't want to play in the spring. You know what I mean? And so for us, I have thought about the ramifications of potentially asking these student athletes to play, upwards of 17 to 20 games in a span of 9 to 10 months. I mean, that's a lot of football. That is a lot of football in a short while. And I think, at some point, in order to get it back on a fall schedule without completely canceling a full season, it's going to have to happen. It's going to have to happen at least once. And so I think the plan is to play this spring and turn back around the fall and do it again. And then hopefully at that point, you're back on a regular traditional schedule of your sports being fall, winter, and spring again.
Yeah,
I think that would be the best idea. I mean, ideally, not only for the coaches but for the players to keep the condition, because otherwise we're going to be back to square one of, okay, we got this big gap where we're not working out. We're not even. They're not even touching the football, and then we're at the college level not so much, but in the high school level, they got the strongest thumbs in probably all of the counties. But you know what I mean? I think that we need to continue to push them. That way we can keep them in football shape. But because if we run through this again, I'm sure that could have a very negative effect as far as getting their bodies prepared and in football shape if we leave that big of a gap again. And hopefully we don't have to go through something like this again. But I definitely agree with Coach Watkins that we got to move forward and get back to the August, September starts. I mean, it just has to happen. The body was made for it. I mean, that we've been playing football like that for how many years?
Yeah, this ain't no spring football league, okay? Coach Gary, did you have any athletes? I think I can ask this now because Southwestern's going to play football with all the other teams. Did athletes from Southwestern College approach you after it was announced that Southwestern would not be playing in the fall, looking to further their football opportunities with your program?
Yes, I believe I think we had 2 student athletes who reached out to us. I spoke to them briefly, and I literally told them, hey, just relax. This thing isn't over yet. Wait to find out. One of the things that we do, and I know Coach CARBERRY knows this, one of the things that we do at Mesa is because of myself and Coach CARBERRY's relationship, I try my best to make sure that we do everything on the up and up, and they do this, and they do the same. We've had multiple conversations, about things that behind the scenes that take place, but we haven't, to my knowledge, I haven't had any Southwestern students actually transfer to Mesa over this duration of this pandemic or whatever. And so we're looking forward to competing with all the schools in San Diego as always. But it's been a crazy time, and it's not just Southwestern, right? It's other junior colleges outside of California. It's the Kansas JCs. It's been a whirlwind of guys looking for an opportunity to play. I think Coach Carberry hit the nail on the head a second ago when he mentioned, the sophomores or the qualifiers who may not be a part of our programs. A lot of those guys, I know we've had a couple of guys who have come in and they're like, wait a minute, they're not playing in California, but they are playing in Kansas. I'm going to Kansas. You know what I mean? And so it's been a really big transition for everybody. As far as managing our rosters, trying to figure out who's leaving, trying to figure out who's coming back, who's staying. It's been a transition for I imagine everybody in the county.
What really is the I wanted to know personally, because my son's been telling me about his discontent for, okay, yeah, we're doing our workouts and everything out there, and he's a sophomore over at West Hills, and he's like, but at the same time, we're not throwing the football. I mean, it's kind of frustrating that we cannot get our hands on the football when that's the whole idea behind it, and being able to run plays effectively, being able to actually see that play in front of you, whether you be an offensive or defensive player. I mean, what kind of precautions could we take to whether we're practicing or game time? I mean, we've already been wiping the football off for years, but what do? Is it safe enough to spray it down with some of the sanitizer? Is there going to be enough of that's going to kill the virus as many times as you throw that ball back and forth in there? I think it's a legitimate question on if that's going to work.
Definitely a key question. When you look at just in the weight room, we were talking at our school about what it would take to get in the weight room, and they brought in some gym owners from the area and talked to them about what was going on, and they would have the weight room available and open. This is a private enterprise, it's like LA Fitness or whatever, not Southwestern, but they would let the gym be open for, let's say, 2 hours. They'd close it for an hour, wipe everything down, open it back up for 2 more hours. There goes again, another hour, clean it up. So it's not a simple task to get all these things done and have it at the point where everybody's as safe as they can be. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I would chime in on that. I think part of that no ball, and I'm obviously I'm not in those meetings, especially like for the high schools, but I think part of the no ball idea was that the student athletes could get back on the field and get in shape in case we were going to play in the fall. I don't think anybody, at least I hope not. I can't wrap my mind around the idea of people actually thinking we're going to actually be able to practice without the ball. You know what I mean? And so I think that was more for like the conditioning, preparation, making sure that if we played, because you don't want to send the guys out there in August after having not done anything since, February, and say, go out there and play football, And so I'm of the belief that's going to be extremely difficult to actually play football until they can come up with some type of safe precautionary procedures that allow us to use the ball, to be in close contact. I mean, football is it's a very close sport. There isn't social distancing in football. Like that's like water and oil. You know what I mean? They don't go together. And so it's a little difficult to imagine us playing the game the way that we know it under these restrictions right now.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the NFL's start so important for everyone to witness, and these other sports that are getting underway. And we saw today, if you saw this, Washington opened their season against the Yankees, and already a Washington player, a top player, Soto, got the virus, so he's out
Yeah.
now, and that's something the teams are going to have to look forward to. I guess that's why, at least with these teams, Dave, we've got some time. We've bought some time, as uncomfortable as it is to wait this long to get back on the field. What is the timetable, guys? If we're talking about a start, I think I have the calendar here. If we're talking about a start date of you can start practice on January 18th with the competition start date on February 13th. So let's just hope that despite this terrible spike that we've seen, we know that the mortality rate is declining amongst all these tests and everything. So I don't know, kind of look like if we can kind of continue to progress and continue to improve things, that by that time things will be okay. Tell me about that timetable, guys, getting out there in January to start practicing. That should be awkward, but you're looking forward to it.
Oh yeah, they'll get used to it no matter what. No matter what deal you put in front of them, within a week or two, they'll feel comfortable and get going. And so I don't think that in the long haul is going to be a big issue. It's the whole thing, the overall. I was talking to our trainers the other day, and they were talking about how the trainers have put together an 85-page dossier that's got all this different information, like you can't use the locker room. If we were playing in the fall, I don't know what it's going to be like in the spring, how that'll adapt, but you can't go in the locker room. You can't go in the trainer's room unless it's some kind of major injury, just on and on and on and on of what you can and cannot do. Sign a waiver every day before practicing and get your temperature taken every day. How's that going to work? We have 2 full-time trainers, and if one of those gets hurt, there's a problem. When I was at San Jacinto, we had 1 trainer. What are you going to do when he's out? You're going to have a lot of coaches out there with thermometers, and then you got another situation where you have maybe 3 or 4 volunteer coaches that are out there swabbing people and doing all this other stuff. I think that's a lot to ask of somebody who's not getting paid anything at all.
Yeah.
And so that'll certainly be an issue that is going to come up, and how they're going to be able to get everybody on the same wavelength. That'll be real hard. But
the thing,
we'll see.
I think really though, it's gonna change it. Not only in sports, but not to go too far off base, but let's think about concerts for a minute. Can you imagine some of those big concerts? They had those big stadium concerts that were set for this last summer. I think there was a total of 4 or 5 bands, and it's like, to me, it's going to take. I'm just guessing It's going to probably take 6 or 7 hours to get people into that venue and get those temperatures taken. And not only that, but I think you're going to have to break that tour down to where you're going to have probably 3 shows in the same city. That's the only way I see seeing it safely, and people being able to be separated far enough and have the adequate safety equipment to be able to watch it. And the thing is, that's why they haven't opened up the churches and such and music. If you think about it, you got so much with the mask and everything. Yeah, you're catching some of the cough and everything, but you think about these people singing and everything. They're not doing it on purpose, but there's a lot of particles coming out of people's mouths.
Yeah, Coach.
You're singing, and the same thing when you're playing football. You take a good check shot. I'll tell you what, and your mouthpiece comes out. That's going to fly about 5 yards, and how many particles are going to come off of that?
Well, I've actually seen some some nice new equipment. I'm sure you guys have coaches have seen some of those lower plastic guards now. I don't know how much you guys have looked into that. Coach Watkins, I know you wanted to chime in, and maybe you could elaborate a little bit. I think the direction you're going. I just want to say, maybe you can add this in, is in different, and I'm experiencing this too, in different elements of society, seem to be playing by different rules. Now, we have to do things above board from an athletic perspective, talking about you guys as supervisors, really, if you will. You have to do things accordingly because of the possible, I guess, legal ramifications. But there are other elements of society, even when we go out into grocery stores. I mean, people are touching things on the shelves. I mean, there's lots of conversation about things that are going on with public gatherings and things like that. Is there a double standard a little bit, Coach Watkins? And what were you going to say about that?
I mean, I'm not really, I don't want to say not well versed, but the what's happening in other areas of the society, it's a different playing field for us in athletics, because people go in the supermarket, they're in and out of there 15, 20 minutes, right? Like we can have a 45-hour-long meeting where we're all sitting in the same classroom, breathing the same air, in the same locker rooms, riding the bus for 2-3 hours, depending on where you're going, in close proximity. I mean, there are a lot of things that our sport, entails, and it's not just our sport; it's all athletics at our level. The travel in some of the vans when the smaller teams travel, like you have people who are in close proximity to each other for a long extended period of time. And I think the biggest glaring difference, and you talk about the NFL and you talk about the Division I athletes or programs, the difference in resource where they can spend the money necessary to seclude their athletes and make sure that they have multiple trainers. I know Coach CARBERRY mentioned having 2. I think we have 3 trainers. And the thing that sparked my concern was, when you talk about all the sports being on campus at one time, if a student athlete from any sport were to come down with the virus and they had contact with the trainer, well, now every student athlete that's had contact with that trainer is now on the protocol. You know what I mean? And so it's extremely difficult to navigate the restrictions that are needed to, and I'm not knocking the restrictions. I believe they are necessary right now. You know what I mean? Like it's in everybody's best interest and the interest of everybody being healthy. It's important that we have those in place, and those people who are deciding those are way more well versed at that type of stuff than I am. And so I think it's important that we keep it all in perspective and understanding that we will have the opportunity to return to the field. It might not be with the guys we thought we were going to have, but like Coach CARBERRY said, they're going to adapt. They will adapt to whatever situations we put in front of them. And that junior college bunch, they are a very resilient group, and they will achieve. There's no doubt about it.
How much turnover, Coach CARBERRY, do you expect to have that, Coach Watkins mentioned that, and you mentioned an athlete that may not be participating because of the timeline. Do you expect that full team to be there? Is it just a matter of how kids are progressing through their schooling, where they're at in their educational career at your particular school?
Well, that's a great question. I don't think there's always tremendous turnover. You can win and do all these great things, and still the next day the guys are always looking for some grass that's greener to go to. And so how many guys do I think we're going to have? There's about 40 guys on a list of paper that are guys who were around our program last year. Whether they got any playing time or anything like that may be a totally different situation. But that kind of group level is over the years has been pretty consistent. And then you go down into the summer and the what do you call it? Summer's almost over now. For the fall, and now you've got a totally different situation where you've turned spring into fall. So those strength and conditioning kind of classes you did in the spring are now gone on and are going to take place in the fall semester. So that will be getting kids organized to be in the right class, finding them. What's that old old saying, there's three kinds of people: those who watch things happen, those who make things happen, and those who say, "What happened?" And so, when you look at it at the community college level over the years, that's pretty much what it's been. We as a nature, all of us, Gary, myself, everybody, is dealing with a guy who has a problem. There are very few ready-made players that are able to come right out and do what they need, whether it's lifting or grades or whatever. So it's going to be, when you look at that, there's going to be a huge turnover, and all we can do is, focus in on the kids that are there and give them our best effort, and get them in a position where our academic counselors can have them in their best position to transfer. And I know there's a lot. There's 67 teams, I think, in the state, and all the coaches that are out there, they're doing good things for kids, and they're trying to get them out. And that's certainly what we're going to do, and what coach is going to do. And we're going to see, what we can do for these kids to get out and have the experience they want, and still be able to participate in the following year. So,
Coach Gary, what's those Zoom calls been like? You've had some with your players, right? I mean, the trajectory of this program, it was going to be an exciting year. It still is going to be an exciting year, but man, just got to be chomping at the bit a little bit.
Yeah, the Zoom workouts and Coach Carberry hit the nail on the head again. That's the experience speaking right there. The Zoom workouts for us have been a way for us to stay in high contact with our guys. It gives us an opportunity to help them navigate those issues. It's a lot difficult, especially for your freshmen who are coming in or your sophomores who are looking to transfer. It's difficult to navigate student services and counseling and financial aid when you're not on campus. Usually we just hold their hands and walk them right down there. And now it's, call, set up an appointment. It's schedule a Zoom meeting with the counselor. And so a lot of our Zoom meetings are dedicated to, one, checking on their mental well-being, right? Making sure that they're in a good space, because they're experiencing something that they've never experienced as well, outside of just not being able to play football. It's making sure that they're handling their academics and making sure that they stay focused on the main goal, which is to transfer. And so you can't transfer if you don't take care of school. So we're doing grade checks, we're doing class checks, we're assignment checks. And so we're trying to stay as high contact as technology will allow us to. Obviously, it's not the same as seeing them every day. It's not even close to seeing them every day, but it, like Coach Carberry said, giving them our best effort despite the current circumstances. We're not going to allow the current circumstances to dictate our futures. And so we're trying to stay on top of them as much as we can through that modality.
Dave, we talked about it with some of those prep coaches the other night. Coach Watkins is teasing his old mentor about his experience, but you know what? These guys are it's kind of like being a rookie coach again, because you got to learn. We're all going to learn new things moving forward. I mean, sure, once you get back out there on the field and, God willing, everything works out, you can just go out there and play football. But just everything, the administrative things, Dave, and the things that they're going to have to do, basically because of this timetable, the procedures, and all that, it's going to be a little bit extra on these guys' plates.
Well, there's a lot of options. I don't know if there's as many options at the community college level, but I know that speaking with Coach Ash and some of the administrators over at West Hills High School and Elkhorn Valley High School, and then talking to Nick Osborne last night, Coach Nick Osborne from Elkhorn Valley, the idea is they're going to start off with the distance learning, and then hopefully, just like football, the ultimate goal is to get them completely back on campus, because these kids need structure. Every single last one of them, especially at the high school level, I think they need that structure before they get too Coach Carberry or to Coach Watkins. They need that structure, and they need that that discipline before they get over there. More so they can be molded and ready to go. And I think this distance learning, it's okay to start with, but I think slowly but surely, like we've been given the option with our own son, you can go 1 day, you can go 2 days, you can go up to 3 days, I believe. But it's going to be a slow transition. But I think ultimately the goal, I think every superintendent in high school and every college administrator is to slowly but surely, whether they be athletics, student athletes, or people searching for one of the better degrees, and a lot of these schools offer special degrees. All of them do in San Diego County. We need to get back onto that campus. I think that they have better focus. I think they have better hands-on, and it's really the only way to succeed in your craft, no matter what craft that may be, whether it be as a student athlete or as an engineer, for example. Okay, I think that we need to get back onto the campuses. Now we do need to get there safely, and that's why we have all these safety precautions in place. But I see the next year we need to slowly but surely get everybody back onto those campuses, and we need to go. We need to take a big step forward. And that's my opinion.
Well, for sure. And Coach Ed, before we can let you and Coach Watkins and everybody to do their job, we're all concerned ourselves, right? Maybe selfishly, how we want our sports back. We want to get back on the fields. But I think most importantly, we got to start with school, right? I mean, before we can do anything.
So they say.
Yeah. Coach Gary, we wouldn't want to sacrifice the football season, but if we could at least get these kids back in school. I mean, if the timetable didn't work out, I mean, I guess we would take that, and hopefully we can get back to our regular scheduled season next year. I know we're going to play football again, but man, it just seems like getting back to what Dave said. I mean, starting the educational process and let the athletics follow. Hopefully that's the case, Coach Watkins.
One of the things that, and one of the things that junior college athletics provides is like, especially for coaches and head coaches, we do so much more than just coaching football. You know what I mean? And so there's a lot that goes into the start of a student athlete's journey to the end. And so, football, you make it to the highest level of the NFL, you have a nice career, like it's still only a small fraction of your life. And so we try to keep the focus on the main thing, which is getting your education. And so although we are in a situation right now that dictates that we must be online, we must be remote, we're challenging our guys every day to not allow this temporary circumstance to dictate what the rest of their future is going to look like. Like, don't make mistakes now because you don't want to be online or you don't want to show up for a Zoom class. That's going to hinder you down the road. And so the focus, although it may not be ideal, I truly believe that this is a temporary obstacle, and it's important that we remain focused on the things that are important, like getting these guys out and getting into class and helping them through this different learning environment so that ultimately they can still achieve their goals.
Well said. That's true.
Yeah. Dave, we'll wrap it up with Coach Ed Carberry of the Southwestern Jaguars and Coach Gary Watkins of the Mesa Olympians. But while we got him on, we stretch him out for 5 more minutes because we've talked to Coach Ed and just maybe a few minutes talking about the Monte Vista Monarchs. Gary was a player for Ed. Coach Ed, did you see a head coach when you were coaching Gary as a player?
Well, he was extremely knowledgeable about what's going on the field. A lot of guys are just trying to understand their little triangle of the world. And Gary was a student of the game. Didn't make many. If he made a mistake, he didn't make it again. And he just did a great job for us. We had he had a great career, one of the all-time Monarchs, and it's been a lot of fun being around him and seeing him succeed and do the things he's been doing. Really important to me personally to see that.
And Gary, as an offensive lineman playing for that program and that style of ball that, oh boy, that Monte Vista seems to continue to carry at that point. Tell me what it was like with, now that, coach, but what about when he was coaching you up?
It's one of my fondest times in a football program. Like the aura around that program at that time when I was there, it was like it meant something extremely special to be a Monarch, and the lessons that I learned as a 15, 16, 17-year-old are lessons that I still thrive on today. I mean, even when, like, if I find myself in a tough spot, I can hear Coach Carberry, I can hear Coach Culver screaming at the top of their lungs at 6:30 in the morning, "Weights up, find a way." Like those things that I learned as a teenager are things that I still to this day rely on to get me through the tough times. And playing for Coach Carberry, I remember there were multiple times, especially in my senior year, there were multiple times where he would spend his lunch. I mean, it was my lunch period. It was also his lunch period, but he would spend his lunch period with me in the ready room playing football checkers. And he would teach me the game on this it's like a checkerboard, but it was football pieces, right? And he would move the pieces around and he would talk to me about 32 crunch. And then while we run, the next play off of that series, and like he was so methodical in how he taught me how the game actually worked. And like it was during that time that I fell in love with the X and O's and the scheme of the game. And it's something that, I'm forever indebted to him for, because you don't, as a high school coach, you don't have to make that time available to your players. You spend enough time with your players, but the fact that he was willing to take time out of the only time he has off to himself to spend that time with me, you know what I mean, and teach me what he knew about the game. And that's not just something he did when he was my high school coach. He's always allowed me, whether he was at San Jacinto, whether he was at Southwestern, while I wasn't at Mesa, he's always given me access to his program. I've always been able to come by and talk shop with him. Obviously that isn't as flexible as it now as it was then, for obvious reasons. But he's been an amazing mentor. He calls and checks in on me and makes sure I'm doing all right. And I truly believe, except for one time a year, 1 week a year, I truly believe he is rooting for me, and so I appreciate that, and I'm grateful to have a mentor, Coach Carberry, in my life.
And Coach Ed, that one time of the year, can you tell me? Can you tell me if you did reflect? I mean, obviously before the first time you faced Coach Watkins when it was Mesa and Southwestern, but did you have any reflection maybe right before the game or anything, and just think about that moment, about him coaching on the other sideline? And was a special recollection for you right at that moment? I would think, like, right as the game's about to begin, or the national anthem or something like that.
Yeah, we had a good chance to, every year we've coached against each other, we've had a good chance to, before the game, get together for a couple minutes and see how everybody's doing, how all the families are and whatnot. And it's a great challenge. Gary's meticulous. He works super hard. It's important to him to do it the right way. And so he takes that onto the field. He takes it into preparation with the players. And that's why he's been successful. And it's going to be a battle every year, to be county champions, kings of the county. That's what we all want to be. And this is certainly Gary's time right now. He's the ruler. And it's important to understand everybody's coming after you. And that. So that makes it fun, though, right? I mean, you'd rather
I enjoy it.
play the Highlanders with Reggie Bush and Alex Smith and the entire company.
Yep.
Well, I guess unfortunately Mike Jordan had a family emergency. He did just text me, and he was real sorry he couldn't make it on tonight to join everybody. But I would like to congratulate you for just getting through all this, Coach Watkins. Same thing with you, Coach Carberry, and we're just looking for some live sports. We want them just as bad as you guys do. Let me tell you, we
I
want
made
to.
Dave, I made Dave get you guys because I'm, I need something. I need some sports. I'm going crazy. I'm glad all these sports are starting back up, Dave. We're about to get inundated with all these professional sports, and
Major
hopefully
League Baseball.
all the sports, and hopefully that'll make everyone start to feel more confident in moving forward. Like I said, I mean, there's different. As much as I want to appreciate everything you're saying, Coach Watkins and Coach Ed, about taking precautions. People are getting in airplanes still. I mean, yes, the flights are down 90% as far as capacity, but people are still getting in airplanes. They're still getting in buses and everything, and it's just unfortunate that. Not unfortunate, but it's a good thing that we are taking precautions to be safe. I mean, Ed, I'm glad you're feeling great. I mean, we're gonna need you, and whether it was what it was, I don't know. But the way things have been in the South Bay, I mean, that's why Southwestern, put football was the first to put them on the back burner. Dave, we don't need to ask Coach Carberry for an assessment on how well Coach Watkins has done with the program over there at Mesa. I think he hit it right on the head. But we're going to make sure that maybe we can get these two guys on maybe the week of the big game in March.
Absolutely.
It'll probably be the first week of March or something.
Yeah.
We do need to get
crazy.
We do need to get you guys on again, and I'm hoping to get the gentleman in the green and yellow also to join us next
awesome.
time, since you guys have to play him too. So I think it'll make it for an even better show, which has already been a great show. And I don't want to cut anybody off, but I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on the show, and for Ramon Scott, for Coach Gary Watkins, and for Coach Carberry. I'm Dave Dickens, and I really thank you guys for joining us for the special college report tonight. Thank you.
You bet. Thank
Thanks,
you for
guys.
asking.